So here we're going to take a look at bringing in the geometry that we created in Illustrator, cleaning it up in a separate sketch, and then projecting it on a curved surface so we can kind of see the implications of, whether we're going to project that geometry or we're going to wrap it. And we can see the differences between the two because they are substantial. Because the goal here is to create something like this with a consistent wall thickness, basically. 1/2 inch all the way around, and then create these fillets, these soft fillets as it goes into this surface. Same thing on the inside. Okay, so we'll get started. I'm going to start I'm just going to open up that DXF because that starts with basically a new file. So this is the DWG that I saved out from Illustrator. I'm going to go to open. And I think we went over this in a separate video, but we'll go over it again here. Import to a new part as a 2D sketch. I'll click next. The Illustrator file had a couple of drawings, one that was already filled, another one that was just the lines, if you recall. So I'll just import everything and kind of delete this side. Hit next and finish. Entities within a block can't be merged, so I'll just hit OK, yes here, yes here. So here's our Illustrator geometry as a 2D sketch. Okay, so first thing I'll do is I'm going to remove stuff that's over here on the right, delete that. And the next thing is right away is see how the origin is way up here? And if you don't see this origin, remember that you can either unhide it here. Here's every part has an origin, right? A 0, 0, 0 point for your X, Y, Z. Make sure that it's not hidden here and that it's also visible here. Okay, so just make sure that that's all on here so you can see the origin. Okay, so I'm going to go face on again. So my goal is to get the center of this entire drawing over here to the origin. So I'm going to set a couple of center lines here. So you can either click center line here, or I already have it set here anyway. So I'm going to drag a line here, right down the middle. Oops, and sometimes that happens. So I'm just going to click here. Ooh, I don't know what's happening here. Let me see, I'm going to try going across and see what happens. Same thing happens. I may be moving my mouse, I'm not sure. Click once, click twice. Okay, I think I was moving my mouse. Okay, the next thing is you want to select everything. Now, at this point, don't drag it because right now this Illustrator drawing does not have any kind of relations to anything. There's no vertical, horizontal, anything. So if I just start dragging over, some weird stuff's going to happen, just like this, right? There's no relations at all. So instead of setting up all these relations, because I want to resketch this anyways, what you want to do is select everything and go to the Move Entities tool in the sketch. So you click on that. All of these entities that are selected here will get input here. And the way I'm going to move it is the From To method. Is where the from, we set a starting point, wherever you want that starting point. I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to click once. That's my from. And I'm not dragging. I let go of the mouse. I just clicked once, and then I hover over the origin. And this could be the origin. It could be the end of another line, another entity or something. But in this case, all I have is my origin. So I'm going to hover over the origin, and that's my 2. So I select or click, and there we go. That's how we move everything that doesn't have any relations or anything. Just so that's the Move Entities tool. So now with it in the right location, I'm going to hit OK. All right. So remember you brought this in from Illustrator, right? So if I go in and edit the sketch again, and I start to, let's say I want to, try to fix these entities up. And let's just try to bring in a few dimensions here. So even though this is an arc in Illustrator, or started out as a circle, in this case it's a circle, see how I'm grabbing the dimensions tool, smart dimensions, and nothing's happening? Because in SolidWorks, this is not really an arc. You know, I'm using the, you know, the dimension tool on this is not, you know, this is almost basically, this is a spline that looks like an arc, you know, or a circle. And so that's why I can't really lift a dimension off of this. So that's why I go in and create another sketch over this. And I mean, you can go in and start, you know, trimming stuff from this. Just know that you can't necessarily edit those elements. So one thing, I'm actually editing a couple more things here. I'm going to add a couple more center lines here, just for accuracy. I think I moved the mouse again. Okay. Then now hit OK there. All right, so now I'm going to go to front plane, start a new sketch. And certain elements here, I can transfer them over. So I'm just going to grab the center lines and hit convert entities and just make sure that all of that is for construction, so they remain construction geometry and not solid lines. Now I'm going to go into my circle tool, start making a few of these. Get as close as possible. I'm going to get my straight slot tool. Click the center of the slots for both of those circular elements. And then you can bring the slot out, just like this. Okay. So now I'm going to hide the original sketch. And these are my elements here. Because now I want to dimension some of this stuff, just make sure that it's nice and clean. So 1.83. Okay, this one already has a relation to that endpoint, so I'm going to remove that so that it's not locked down. 1.15. This one will be, let's say 1.7. Okay, all the lines are black, meaning that they're fully defined. And I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add the actual rim width here. So I'm going to go to the offset entities, select that. It's going to be 1/2 inch to the inside. So I'm going to click on reverse. So now that rim goes to the inside. All right, so there we go. So now we have a nice, clean, fully defined sketch. Now you can click OK. And the original sketch is hidden. And I'll label this clean sketch. Check out the 2 so there's no confusion there. And I'll upload all this stuff. So, okay, so now I'm going to create the surface that this is going to be projected onto. And so, you know, we're making our wrist interface. So I'm going to make something this somewhat rounded on top so we can project onto it, because then that way we can also see the implications of projecting versus wrapping. So I'm going to go to the top view and create a surface that we can project onto. So top view, new sketch, grab the arc tool, and I'm just going to quickly just bring in something like this really fast, and then add some relations to that. So center of this arc to the origin, and then one going across from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, so it's all kind of out of control here, so we're going to add some dimensions here. I'm going to go vertical with this one, horizontal with this one, and let's see, I think it's already a conflict there. I think both of them were selected. There we go. Horizontal, vertical, And I'll add a dimension to this just so we can all be on the same page here. So let's say 3.5. So 3.5, and then I'm going to get a little bit closer to doesn't be that wide. And you can set other parameters so that we have full control over, let's say, the distance of the origin to the top of this or maximum of this circle. So you can hit shift to dimension to that if that's what you want. Let's give it a 1/4 inch clearance there. And so now we have a spacing in between the origin and the top of that surface. All right, so there's our second sketch. Okay, so this is what I'm going to extrude now as a surface. Remember, I like to stick with surfaces as long as possible. And that way I'm not worried about all these other faces, and what they're doing. I'm just worried about that one surface face and controlling just that one. Okay, so this one is going to get extruded mid-plane. And let's go, I think, about 8 inches here. I think that should be enough clearance. Let's go a little bit more. 3.5. Okay, so there's our first surface. Okay, so this is where I'm going to copy this surface. And remember, to copy, we can do it a couple of different ways. We can do an offset surface with 0, and that would make a copy of that surface. Another way would be to use move copy bodies, be another way. Let's use a move copy bodies, because that's probably more familiar with everybody, and more applicable to a lot of other things too, like a solid body or something. So here I'm going to select, let's see, could be translate. Doesn't really matter because I'm not going to actually translate anything. It's going to be the exact same space, so no translation, but I am going to copy it. So one copy. And if you don't see this one, remember to go to translate rotate. Sometimes some people get this as the first window as you go into the move copy bodies. These are all the kind of the mating process for similar to assemblies. So I want to use just the translate and rotate, simpler. So just make sure that copy is selected here. So you'll get this warning where it says neither a translation nor rotation is specified. Do you want to proceed? We say okay. It's just making sure that you know that it's not being moved or rotated, but it's still being copied. And so if I look at my folder here, surface bodies, I have my two surfaces. So I'm going to hide one for now, because one's going to be my projected and the other one's going to be my wrapped. So you can see the differences between the two. Okay, so this one is, I'm going to get a trim. So this is going to get the trim, and right now I'm just going to concentrate on this rim area, not necessarily these interior holes here. Okay, so I'm going to trim, use a trim surface. This is the trim tool that I'm going to use is this sketch. And this rim area, this is what I want to keep. So keep selections, and this purple area is what I want to keep. Click OK. And there we go. So here we have our curved surface trimmed by the sketch just along the rim area. And this is what I want to describe to you. So looking straight on, this is a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 inch rim here. But if you kind of look closely here, and I'm doing my up arrows and down arrows to get a different view. It's a little hard to tell here, but you'll notice when I do the other one. So because this is projected, so this is a projected sketch onto a curved surface, it's actually thicker here. It's thicker here by quite a bit. So because it's 2D sketches being projected onto 3D geometry, and the more this is curved, the longer this gets, right? So it's just a front projection onto that. So we're really not maintaining this 1/2 inch width all the way around this racetrack here. It's actually getting wider over here on the side. So how do we alleviate that? So what we'll have to do is on the other one, so, and let's see, I'm gonna finish this off. I'm gonna do a thicken on this surface here. So 0.1 is fine. So 0.1 going downwards, I'll click OK. And there we go. So that's the first process. I'm gonna put all of this in a folder. So add to new folder. And this one will be the projected trim surface. Now we know what this one does. Okay, so now I'm gonna unhide or show the other surface. And because we thickened that surface, that other surface is now in the solid bodies, right? So I'm gonna hide that one. Okay, so now I'm going to use that same, actually I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to, because it's a wrap, it likes just a single enclosed area for the wrap. So I'm going to start a new sketch on the front plane. I'm going to show this other stuff. And I'm going to select all the elements that make up that racetrack rim area and convert entities to transfer some of the entities from one sketch onto this other new sketch, this other sketch. So I'll click OK. Hide the previous sketch. So there we have our racetrack there. Okay, so this is now where we're going to wrap this new sketch onto the surface to get better results. So I'm going to go to wrap. I'll select this sketch and then select this surface. So there we go. So you can see this sketch, and it's giving you a preview here. The sketch is now being wrapped across the top of this surface. And if I look at it from the top, it looks like it's a little bit off. See how it's going down a little bit, but it's actually, it's correct, because the previous one just went straight down and gets projected onto the surface. This one is now getting wrapped. So it's just like getting a sticker and just wrapping it on this curved surface. All right, and if it was a sticker that had this 1/2 inch racetrack going across, the dimensions of that sticker is not going to change, right? So that's what we want here. So I'm going to turn on my edges just so you can see the new face. So what wrap in this case did with this surface is it wrapped the sketch onto the surface and basically just broke up that surface into 3 faces: inside, the middle here, and this this outside area. So we don't need these inside and the outside. So I'm going to delete those faces. So those faces are selected. Under option, it's under just straight delete. So I'll click OK. And there we go. So now with this one, I'm going to thicken that one. And it also goes, I have to select it. It's going down 0.1, same as the other one. Okay, so now we have our 2 thickened pieces here. So I'll put those in a folder. And so this is the wrapped surface. Okay, so now let's look at the other one. I'm going to unhide that one or show it. And let's, I'm going to name that body too. I'll call it wrapped. Click and hold it. Projected. Okay, so So if you look at these kind of the straight on areas here, they're pretty much identical. The width is still 1/2 inch here. But as soon as it starts to curve, it gets projected more, you can see a big difference here. You can see a big difference in the dimensioning here. So whereas the wrapped version is exactly 1/2 inch going across on the sides, on the projected version, it's much more. It could be like, 0.6 or something. So let's try to measure them. I'm going to go to evaluate, measure. Let's see if I can grab the end points here. And so it's 0.55. So you can see the inaccuracy of the projected version. Okay, so whereas this one, if I go to measure, grab the same 2 points, you can see it says 0.5. So those are the the implications of using one method over the other one. It's stuff you have to think about, because if you're required to have this 1/2 inch element wrapping around this curved surface, you want to keep it at 1/2 inch. So that's a way to to do that, using the wrap tool versus the projection. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is going to finish it off similar to how I had that illustration. Have this kind of soft lead up to this edge, and then another soft one on the inside. So I'm going to use that that same curved surface, or that curve, to create a new surface. I'll do another extrude. Let's go mid-plane, and I'll just say okay. And I'm going to use my move copy bodies to move this new surface body down a bit. And let's go 0.1. It gets copied. Actually, I don't want it copied. I just want to move it. I want to move it and then thicken this body. I want to thicken that. Let's go a little thicker on that one. Okay, so with thicken, merge result is on. So whatever's visible, whatever body's visible, it'll get merged with that. So projected was still hidden, so it doesn't get merged with that. The wrapped version was visible, so it got merged with the wrapped version. So now these two are now one body, and that's what we want here. So what I'm going to do now is fillet not this edge, but that inside edge. So I'm going to see, sometimes it doesn't do all of the elements here. Make sure I grab all of them. Okay, so now what is going to be our radius here? Let's try 0.2. I think 0.4. So even though this wall is only 0.1, and our fillet is 0.4. So what's happening is the 0.4 or half of that 0.2 will go outside of that edge, and it will just kind of fly off this edge here. It won't even tangent really to it. It just has to make contact with that. So it's not trying to be flush with this wall at all. It just wants to complete that fillet. So you can see that kind of the subtle curvature here all the way around. And I think let's see, I think you may even be able to go a little higher. I'll just do 0.5 on that. All right, so that looks pretty good, and it's consistent all the way across here. So there's that outside. I'm going to make one on the inside. Not quite as much, I think. So let's just go 0.2 on the inside. And I think 0.2 is probably about right. I just want to make sure that it makes contact on this edge all the way through. All right, that looks pretty good there. I want to check the section view right down the center lengthwise. Make sure that it's looking okay. Looks like it is. It's gonna have a nice flow from this flat surface up to this edge. There are no gaps or breaks. Sometimes you have to look out for that kind of stuff. You know, by break meaning, you know, there might be a little bit of a flat wall that still remains. Sometimes that just happens when there's when the fillet might be almost the same size as the wall height. Just be careful with that. But once you exceed it, it should be pretty good. All right, so there we go. I think that's, oh yeah, I'm gonna do one other thing here. I do want to shell it. So just in case you do have, let's say a 3D printer or something, you just want to print this out with a thin wall. You know, you want a consistent inside version of this, what's out here. All right, so you can pretty much just shell it. Should be able to get the shell here. So let's go 0.1. I'll show the preview on the inside. So there we go. So there's the 0.1. I'll do a section view again so you can see that there's a consistent wall thickness all the way across. If you want to get rid of these walls, the ones that go down, you just make sure that you select them in the shell command. So every face that you select, remember that's going to get removed. Let me get out of this section view so I can have access to this one. I'll go back and edit the shell. Include all these side walls here to get rid of those faces. So now I don't have that lip anymore. And there you go. So that's a nice consistent racetrack going all the way around with a fillet that leads up to it. All right, thank you.